On a cruise ship, we travel the Baltic Sea along routes that have connected the cultures of the region since ancient times. A journey of discovery in the extraordinary light of a short Nordic summer. This time we visit a very lively breed of horse that was once almost proclaimed extinct. Magical spots in the landscape, midsummer night at places shrouded in legend, and a festival of song in Riga with over 12,000 participants. Our tour once around the Baltic Sea takes us from Sweden to Finland, then on to St. Petersburg, and then all the way to the Baltic countries. Our cruise ship would now head for Latvia and Lithuania. We'll dock at Riga. We'll then travel overland to Vilnius and Trakai, and then continue on to Šiauliai and Plokštiniai, all the way to the Curonian Spit. The Gulf of Riga, a body of water with a stormy history, the scene of centuries of conflict over military dominance. It's astonishingly windy for the summertime. Approaching the ship's side entrance in rough seas is no mean feat. The pilot would only be on board for an hour, long enough to help navigate the currents of the Daugava Delta and bring the ship safely into port. It's now just 3 decades since Latvia regained sovereignty, and 15 years since the country joined the EU, along with neighbors Estonia and Lithuania. Before that, all 3 Baltic states had been part of the Soviet Union. Below deck, preparing for the mooring maneuver. The big tub must be securely frapped to the quay before passengers are allowed ashore to explore the local destination. Riga, population 700,000, is a bustling metropolis and the capital of Latvia. More than half of the country's inhabitants live within the greater Riga area. In these summer days, there was a special buzz in Riga. The big summer festival of song would soon begin, an event that galvanizes the whole city. Some of the numerous visiting vocal groups give a spontaneous sneak preview of their program. Where fortress walls once stood, a green belt now encircles the Old Town. The entire city center has UNESCO World Heritage status. No wonder, with so many surviving architectural testimonials to an eventful history, though many had been in need of extensive restoration work. For example, the House of the Blackheads, a guild for young unmarried foreign merchants. Severely damaged in the Second World War, it was reconstructed in 1999. St. John's Church, scene of a gruesome tale. 2 monks had themselves walled into the masonry to make their case for canonization with the Pope. Food was passed through this window. The fratres did not survive, and Rome remained unconvinced. Right nearby, the former seat of a rich merchant. He was refused membership in the guild In protest, he mounted a cat atop the oriel of his house, its bottom aimed saucily at the competition. They then reached an agreement, but the cat stayed. It was simply turned around. Outside the city, in a forest at the edge of town. 3 days to go until the big concert. But thousands of vocalists had already arrived. They'd a lot of time at home learning the songs and were now eager to rehearse together for the giant singing spectacular. In Riga, a stadium was built especially for songfests such as this. Miza Park, an arena seating 10,000. The group rehearsals last more than 12 hours and demand extreme concentration and stamina from the participants.
Sometimes it feels like the music is sending energy throughout your entire body, as if it were flowing through you. It's the same when the soloists are singing. It's like ants tingling on your skin. Sing yourself and you feel your own energy and the energy of the others.
Victoria Petrova is here for the first time. A student, she had applied in her hometown and, like all the other singers, had to pass a test before getting the thumbs up to sing along here in Riga. Riga is also known as a mecca of European Art Nouveau. With over 800 buildings from an era when the region was booming and grew to be a major industrial hub. The architectural monuments of Art Nouveau are scattered across the city. At the moment, so are groups of singing Latvians. At the edge of the Old Town, not far from the Daugava River and the port, we find the stomach of Riga. The central market, one of the largest of its kind in Europe. In these halls, German airships or zeppelins were built in the First World War, 100 kilometers outside of Riga. In 1930, the buildings were disassembled and reassembled in their original state here, as market halls. The cruise ship had been at port for 2 hours by now. Time for a shopping trip. The ship's head chef takes the opportunity to buy fresh fish, and he's taken passengers along with him to show them the paradise of culinary delights. An El Dorado for cooks and tourists alike. Fresh groceries from the mainland are prepared right away to be offered on the evening menu.
For the dessert.
Every cruise ship has its own stomach, the rations bunker. Fruit and vegetables are stored in this pantry at 3 degrees Celsius. Frozen goods at minus 21 degrees. Chef de cuisine Christian Erbeck selects what he needs for the next mealtime.
Yucca, die brauchen wir dann heute Abend. Feldsalat, brauchen wir heute Abend auch noch.
Most of the provisions had been taken on board before departure in Kiel. 150 tons of foodstuffs. 8 big trucks suddenly show up at your doorstep and it's all loaded and stowed within 6 hours. Pretty quick. 4.5 tons of meat, 2.5 tons of flour, 1.2 tons of cheese. And fish, 2.5 to 3 tons are current inventory. It's all bought before departure? All bought before departure. It's simple. Before they come on board, we already know what they'll eat. How many eggs for 1,200 passengers? 18,000 for 14 days. And here we have again the little pineapple. When you can pull the leaf out, it's ripe. Give it a quick press, and the aroma envelops you. Figs. Best to test with pressure. They're really ripe now. The cruise is over in 2 days, so that's perfect. You pick up all sorts of little tricks over the years. Provisions have to remain fresh and appetizing for the duration. Full board is included in the price of the cruise, all inclusive. So passengers tend to return to the ship for meals, even when they have shore leave. Local restaurants at port stops profit little from the cruise boom.
I think that's an interesting thing.
This one piece will make 52 layers.
Watch on mobile devices or the big screen, all for free. No subscription required.
The evening of the dress rehearsal at the Misa Park. Most of the singers arrive by tram. The grounds are mainly locked down, inaccessible to private vehicles.
Everyone wants to celebrate.
Victoria hadn't slept much after the previous day's rehearsal.
We're always housed at schools. About 20 people in a classroom. On mattresses, on the floor. To be honest, it's a lot of fun.
Most of them are already wearing their performance outfit.
We make these garlands ourselves out of Feast of St. John herbs, which are in bloom everywhere right now. Latvians believe they can heal and are healthy, and that they have special powers. That's why a wreath gives energy and is also decorative for a woman.
The dress rehearsal with an orchestra and 12,000 singers is public. But although it's open to an audience, tickets are still hard to come by. After sundown, it gets very cold. The singers huddle together or wrap themselves in plastic tarps. When the spotlights are turned on, there's major sound interference. But that doesn't dampen the singers' enthusiasm. They respond to the booming interruptions with rhythmic Mexican waves. Then finally, the big day arrives. Sunday evening, just before the big choir concert at the festival grounds. Here Victoria meets up with her godmother. She'd managed to get hold of some of the coveted tickets. This event usually sells out within minutes of the box office opening. Iveta Vucena wasn't singing this year, but she sang in 1989. Then, about the age her goddaughter Victoria is now. Iveta had been part of the human chain that stretched from Vilnius to Tallinn to protest the Soviet occupation. At first, they had offered flowers and held a silent vigil, but then they all started to sing. During the Soviet era, certain folk songs were banned under threat of hard labor. Now, 2 million people began to sing those songs all together, all night long.
I remember all the people who'd got all dressed up and come here from far and wide. And then someone asked us all to hold hands. We'd suspected something of the kind, but somehow... And then we knew we'd be forming a human chain. We gave each other our hands, and for the first time I had such a feeling of community. At the same time, there was uncertainty and fear. We were still intimidated. It all came together, a very emotional event. We were all so full of feeling. It was a time of great political awakening. Up until then, we, the children of the Soviet era, were very fearful. And then the dam was broken, and that convinced us politically. That was the turning point. Wherever Latvians meet up, whatever the topic of conversation, sooner or later, they'll start to sing. The entire life of a Latvian was always accompanied by song. Today, too, singing is in us and with us.
Well before the concert starts, the audience falls silent.
Last night at the dress rehearsal, I even cried. It's also very emotional. I can really relate to the other people who cry. They feel the pain that we sing about in the songs. The emotion just permeates everything. I feel just fine. I'm not nervous at all. I can hardly wait for us to finally start.
Even after the concert has begun, thousands more keep streaming onto the stage, specially built for such large choirs. Almost every year there's a big song festival in one of the Baltic states. In Latvia, singing and folk dance are very popular. All Latvians know and sing folk songs. It's a perfectly normal part of life. And then they begin to sing songs that for many Latvians have an almost religious significance. They don't just sing together, they breathe as one. The songs, this one too, are about nature and Latvian independence.
You get a real feeling of community. The people are together, are united in doing something together, singing together. It feels as though you were a single entity, and it's very powerful. In our songs, we sing about nature, sun, and love. These are no hymns. It's more like the soul crying out. Since my childhood, I've had it in me. I've always wanted to sing. And at this festival, you experience singing with a sense of community. It comes right from the heart.
Now it's finished?
No, now things are just getting started. Anyone can buy a booklet with the songs and lyrics, and now we'll all sing together. The audience too, until sunrise.
Visi dziedās kopā līdz pat rīta gaismai.
But your voice.
It often happens. Almost half of us have lost our voice. That's just the way it goes at the Song Festival.
Tā ir normāli.
Coming from the Baltic Sea, the cruise ship had docked in Latvia. Now, we will travel overland across the border to Lithuania. First, down to the capital Vilnius. Later, to Trakai Island Castle and Kernavė. A few hours by car from the sea lies a destination that requires more time than most cruise day trippers can spare. The road to the neighboring country leads to a completely different language group. When Latvians and Lithuanians meet, they usually communicate in English. Vilnius, the capital of Lithuania. An abundance of Baroque architecture, designed by Italian master builders. A university city, and seat of the Catholic Archbishop. At the foot of the cathedral bell tower, an artist has added a sculpture to the granite stone floor. An artwork called Stebuklas, miracle. If you close your eyes and turn on your own axis 3 times while concentrating hard on a wish, it will be granted. That's the claim. Hardly any visitor to the city passes the stone with indifference. Almost everyone gives it a go. Thus, the miracle stone has already been entrusted with over 5 million wishes. Have they come true? Who can say? This is where, in 1989, the human chain began that stretched 600 kilometers all the way to Tallinn. And the wish for political independence and self-determination was, in fact, fulfilled in the end. Užupis, beyond the river, the name of a Vilnius neighborhood. Originally, it was a poor people's district. Simple folk, tradesmen, and nuns lived there, as well as prostitutes. In 1998, the Republic of Užupis was proclaimed. Ruta Petronite was born in Užupis, a microstate that has posted its constitution in public in 23 languages. Everyone has the right to make mistakes, it decrees, and everyone has the right to be happy.
For me, the best articles are the last 3. Do not defeat, do not fight back, do not surrender. I remember one annual festival in Užupis, here by the Angel. There was a gathering of everyone from the government, we'll just call them that. They always give a speech, announce the honorary citizens, and that year they posed a question. What is Užupis? Užupis is not the government, it's all of us. And they held up this big mirror and let this huge crowd of people see themselves in it. I think it works, that this model is something beautiful, and that it's just, that the citizens are in fact the government.
Saulius Paulius is one of the officials of this self-proclaimed republic. At first, commander-in-chief of the army, until it was abolished because no one could ride. He's now head of the secret services. As deputy to the president, he greets state visitors, preferably in parliamentary chambers. A cafe. We're here now in one of the first cafes, which perhaps only exists thanks to us, because we always had our meetings there. Of course, that's a very traditional way to meet up. The principles of the Republic are, in fact, quite simple. You decide for yourself if you want to become a citizen. That's why there are over 8,000. But they have no ID card, no registration. We have no elected government because it's impossible to have one. We're here at a place in Lithuania where we've tried, up to the present day, although we're now old and frail, to live as we see fit. And sometimes we succeed, because it's right to live like this. To celebrate the founding of the Republic, beer flowed from the fountain, for one day. Musicians settled here, writers, artists, craftspeople. They renovated vacant properties and brought life into the once disreputable district. Christina Novilate was there right from the beginning.
Before we moved here, it really was a poor area. There were many derelict, yet for us artists, very attractive buildings. And when we came here, the place was teeming with artists. Later, the big change started. Many converted the properties, and the whole look and feel of the place was changed. But the atmosphere of freedom, that's still here. People with all kinds of lifestyles from all different social classes. And for me as an artist, this diversity is a fundamental principle and results in the freedom and the special atmosphere. That's very important to me.
Christina's husband, Petros, is a musician, a sought-after pianist, who finds it inspiring to work in his wife's studio while she works on her art. Dainus Strasdas has a pottery workshop right around the corner. Uzupis is a very beautiful place to be and to work because you're surrounded by so many colleagues here and such a diverse array. The people are a bit crazy, but crazy in the best sense. The thing that unites us is this common artist aura, where people understand each other without words, spontaneous understanding.
Yra, kaip sakoma, savaimingo supratimo tokie elementai.
At the edge of the city, by one of the larger Vilnius rivers, the nearest, lies Verkiai, a huge nature reserve. We arrived just in time for midsummer celebrations here. Razos, the Night of the White Nights, or the Feast of the Dews. In the entire Baltic Sea region, especially in Latvia and Lithuania, Midsummer Night is met with many celebrations, customs, and rituals. This is the time when all the warmth, all the powers of the earth must be honored and stored for the dark and difficult days that will inevitably arrive after the much too short Baltic summer. Lukas Takela accompanies many of the rituals with his drum. For me personally, it's just like Christmas, the summer solstice. It represents transformation, the transition to the second half of the year. After today's changeover, we'll look forward to Christmas when again a light appears and all is well. Today, women come and gather all kinds of herbs and take them to a soothsayer who tells them what the future holds in store. The fortune teller gets her information from the plants the women choose for their herbal bouquet. Every bloom, every herb, has a specific meaning that varies according to the region. The sun is still far from sinking as the young women begin singing the first ritual songs. On this day, the people here feel more at one with the universe than on any other, the participants tell us. At one with the others, or at least with the fragrant nature in full bloom. The procession leads to a leafless tree in the middle of the festive grounds. They're finding out who they'll marry. The number of the successful attempt when the garland lands on the branch is the number of years until you'll wed. The higher the branch is, the better the chance the groom will be a good catch.
Does one of those wreaths mean you?
No.
No?
In the shortest night of the year, the light must not go out. That's why a fire is lit, to keep things bright in the brief phase between dusk and dawn. Here, by the fire of the pagan group Rumova, salt is thrown into the flames, and grain, a fertility offering. And beer and amber dust to bring strength and potency to the men. When dark does finally fall, way past midnight, the mood intensifies. In the tradition, the flames should shoot up to the heavens, where the Heavenly Father, Dievs, marries the earth goddess, Mother Mara. Songs of the world tree are sung, and all join in the dance. And 9 months later, there's a little baby boom. "30 kilometers outside the capital Vilnius is a lakeland area with an eventful history. Trakai Island Castle was erected at the same time the nation of Lithuania was founded. Back then, the fortress was seen as an impenetrable bulwark against the crusading Teutonic Knights. But when nearby Vilnius became the capital, the bastion fell to ruin and was destroyed by Tsarist soldiers in the end. It was the Soviets, however, who undertook to restore it to its former glory at the end of the 20th century. In the wide-open flat landscape of Lithuania, you can often spot a lone horse. There are said to be whole wild herds roaming free. In the olden days, when pagans here battled the Christian crusaders, horses were revered as holy. And here in Kernavė lives a breed of horse that narrowly escaped extinction, saved by passionate proponents such as Czeslovas Marcinauskas. I'm 61 and I've been around horses since before I was 5, for as long as I can remember. My father had horses. I'd barely learned to walk when he put me on a horse. By about the age of 4, I was already riding, like a Mongolian. They first learned to ride, then to walk. Czeslovas has done long treks with his horses. In 2010, he led a group from Trakai to the Black Sea, over 2,000 kilometers. This mare was his steed for the journey, the strongest of his 15 mounts. Her energy never flagged, despite the long distance. But she's very strong-willed, too. Because she's away from the herd. They've all stayed behind. Her daughter, too. She's always like this when you take her out on her own, high-strung for quite a while. Later, she'll calm down. When you get far away from home, she becomes very docile. That's the way she is. Strong, hot-blooded, but a bit haughty. She needs a strong hand. These animals are extraordinary. They're a very old Tsaimatukas breed, real indigenous Lithuanian horses. She's the oldest. She's 17 already, and she's carried me all the way to the Black Sea and to Krakow. I didn't have to change horses a single time. I rode from old Trakai to the Black Sea without once changing horses. This is a unique breed of horse anyway, because they have very strong legs and don't need special feed. They'll eat anything. When there's good hay around, they don't need oats. They can survive anywhere. Not far from Czeslavas stables, the summer solstice is celebrated here as well. There are fewer ritual ceremonies as in Vilnius, but here too, Midsummer Night attracts thousands of visitors. The mounds at Kernavė are thought to be the site of early pagan fire sacrifice. Czeslavas has never missed a St. John's Eve festival. Though just a few decades ago, in the Soviet era, people were forbidden to gather on Midsummer Night. But people still found ways of meeting up on these hills to sing and celebrate together. Since 1992, soon after Lithuania regained independence, the tradition has again flourished. It gives me personally the feeling of being truly alive. We look forward to the celebration all year. And people come from all over, friends, family, acquaintances. I wouldn't be me without this festival. I can't exist without this festival. It's a very beautiful celebration. And the weather today is also beautiful. Not too cold, mosquitoes aren't biting. It's not raining. Fantastic. In this extremely dry summer, campfires had been prohibited. The festival flame is all the more special. Soon, everyone is in good voice. The internet serves as a personal text prompter. Later on at night, men will jump over the fire. Women will remove their flower garlands, and couples will search the underbrush for wisdom-bringing ferns in bloom. Trouble is, ferns don't bloom, not even at midsummer. From Riga in Lithuania, where the cruise ship dropped anchor, we traveled the land route over to neighboring Lithuania to Vilnius, Trakai, and Kernavė. The journey continues via Šiauliai, the Hill of Crosses, and Plokštine, all the way to Nida on the Curonian Spit. Lithuania, 1.5 times the size of the Netherlands, has only 2.8 million inhabitants and is still the most densely populated of the Baltic states. The majority of the country's surface area is used for agriculture. Lithuania, unlike the other Baltic states, has a strong Catholic influence. About 100 kilometers from the coast lies Šiauliai, the Hill of Crosses. The first crosses appeared here in 1831, after the bloody suppression of a revolt against the Tsar. Later, they were also erected for people who had died far from home, whose burial place was unknown. In 1940, under Soviet occupation, the number of crosses exploded. Šiauliai became a symbol for the will to achieve independence. The Soviets bulldozed the hill more than once, but new crosses soon appeared. In 1993, Pope John Paul II visited Šiauliai. Since then, at the latest, the hill has become a place of pilgrimage for hundreds of thousands of people every year. About 100 kilometers away, another site that stands for recent Baltic history, Plokštiniai. Tucked away in a picturesque landscape of lakes and largely untouched nature is a former military exclusion zone, far from any villages or cities. In the Soviet era, nuclear missiles were stationed here, weapons with a range of 2,000 kilometers. It's now Lithuania's Cold War Museum. Once a base for nuclear warheads that could have reached Bonn, London, or Paris in a matter of minutes. The arms race was on. After the Americans had begun stowing their nuclear weapons away in subterranean silos, the Soviets too started construction. 10,000 workers were involved, all of it top secret. So secret, in fact, that the USA didn't even notice these bunkers till much later. Back at the Baltic Sea, the village of Nida, originally a fishing village, later an artist's colony. Nida lies on the Curonian Spit, a long, thin strip of land that separates the lagoon from the open Baltic Sea. This creates a large protected area of water, a spawning grounds for various types of fish. Jonas Nikolisius is a fisherman here, but today he's only going out to make sure everything's in order. He's not allowed to fish yet, despite the fine, mild June weather. It's still closed season. After spawning, the fish need time to recover, like women after giving birth. And it's the same in nature. The fish have now spawned and need to rest until at least the end of June. Jonas' fishing grounds lie in an area bordering Kaliningrad Oblast, a Russian exclave nestled between Lithuania and Poland. He's not allowed to get too close to the border. Part of the spit, actually a 100-meter-long sand dune, is Russian state territory and ends in Kaliningrad, formerly Königsberg. A Western outpost that Russia has hung on to in the post-Cold War era. Watchtowers on the beach and clear demarcation lines in the dunes. In the 17th century, there was still a forest of spruce and oak here, but the trees were claimed for shipbuilding, for the fleet of Frederick the Great. The coast was exposed to the storm, and the often rough Baltic Sea heaved masses of sand onto the shore. The sand piles grew and buried everything that stood in their way. 14 villages disappeared beneath the dunes. The East Prussian Sahara. "200 years ago, reforestation efforts began here to keep the sand in check. Thomas Mann enjoyed his stays in Nida in his summer house and praised the Italian view from his study. The Curonian Spit is an avian paradise. It's a transit station for migratory birds on their journey south. The former military exclusion areas have created zones of untouched wilderness. But a population explosion of cormorants here has become a major cause for concern. Their feces are destroying the life sources of entire forests. The trees are simply dying off, a sort of natural over-fertilization. Moreover, these especially good water predators gobble up more fish than the local fishermen could ever catch. And the birds don't give a hoot about off-season. Basically, everyone has to eat. And the laws of nature, you have to accept them, know them, and you must not defy them. Fishing is incredibly hard work and incredibly dangerous. There are very many real perils, and it's dirty too. But when you finally have the fish there before you, it's just like seeing a naked woman. The Baltic fishermen have many curious rules and superstitions, such as never take your boat out on a Friday, or if a fisherman pees into the sea from his boat, he'll return with empty nets. Another bit of old seaman's lore has it that when you sing or whistle on board, it'll conjure up a storm. That's the rule, But when it gets too boring out there, it's better if you just go ahead and sing a song. In certain cases, a seasoned seaman can make an exception.
Žvenk žirgelis lankoj, jodbėrėlis lankoj, žiūriu mano mergožėlė, pasirėmus rankoj.
From the lagoon, we bid farewell to the Curonian Spit and head out to sea. Our visit to the Baltic states was the last stop on our tour. After cruising a total of 2,236 nautical miles, or 4,141 kilometers, our journey across the waters of a fascinating Baltic Sea summer now draws to a close.